All right, we're tracking the latest developments regarding the war in West Asia and its implications across the globe. And we have visuals that are showing the aftermath of an Iranian attack on a northern Kuwait residential area. Now, Kuwait's Health Ministry has reported 6 people injured with varying wounds. Earlier, the army said that air defenses were intercepting incoming missiles and drones. The ministry confirmed debris from intercepted projectiles caused the injuries. Tensions rise as Gulf nations remain on alert. Joining us on the broadcast is my colleague Aditya Vadhavan, who will give us some more information on this front. Aditya, we are talking about the visuals of an aftermath of an Iranian missile actually targeting an area which was residential in nature in Kuwait.
Well, absolutely, Shivani. There have been back-to-back missile attacks from Iran towards several Gulf countries, be it Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. And, now there's a growing concern among these Gulf countries, whether to wage a war against Iran or not. And as far as these visuals are concerned, Shivani, the Iranian ballistic missiles have targeted a residential area in Kuwait, and definitely, there are several, not just this, there are several other residential areas which are under the Iranian radar, and definitely we have recently seen how they have been hitting the desalination plants and other important energy facilities across the Gulf. And definitely, from all these incidents, back-to-back incidents show that this escalation in the Middle East, in the West Asia, is increasing day by day. Back to you, Shivani.
Right, Aditya. In fact, let me also introduce our guest for this discussion, Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, who's a former diplomat. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. We appreciate it. Ambassador Gupta, when we talk about Kuwait, when we talk about the Gulf regions, we are obviously seeing this region suffer the most because there are warring factions which are expecting some kind of damage, which are ready to, bear the brunt. But the Gulf nations have been stuck in this middle of the conflict, and right now, as the deadline looms large, sir, what should the Gulf nations do? Because we are looking at certain countries where they are in fact, putting contingency plans in place because they do not know what will happen in the next 24 hours after the deadline actually expires. Will there be more escalation? And in the end, they will be stuck in the crosshairs. So there have been contingency plans that have been, announced by certain countries. But do you believe that there is more that these countries can do to, protect themselves amid the rising escalation?
Good afternoon, Shivani. You are absolutely right. The situation for the Gulf countries is extremely dangerous right now because Iran finds them as a soft target. They cannot attack US, and they have partially, already attacked many of the essential things in Israel. Now, reaching Israel is also almost 2,000 kilometers away, so it's not that easy. These Gulf states are just across the, Persian Gulf. They are only, in some cases, few hundred kilometers away from mainland Iran. So in that situation, they are vulnerable target. As I mentioned earlier, these states have been living in the shadow, a very fearful shadow of Iran for decades, because Iran has always been what you call tried to dominate these countries because Iran is a bigger nation size-wise. It has about 10 crore population. These states, some of them have few lakh peoples. Maximum population is that of Saudi Arabia, which is about 1.5 crore. And these people are generally prosperous. They have a lot of energy resources. They have used them, in a very wise manner, and they've developed their countries. These are primarily city-states, 1 or 2 cities in each country, which actually determine the entire economy of that country, entire population of that country. And it's very easy for Iran to target these cities and therefore to destabilize all these countries. Now, these things are going to increase. Now we will see after tomorrow when the deadline of President Trump expires, and when the Trumps start, you know, bombarding Iran in a larger way. What Iran will do is Iran will actually fire its missile on all these countries, and all these countries will have to face the fire of Iran. All the civilian infrastructure will come under fire, which will actually make the life of the people very miserable. In addition, there would be chaotic situation because these smaller countries have hardly any what you call you're talking about contingency plan now. There are very limited contingency possible there. If for example, the desalination plant is bombarded, now there is no alternative supply of water to these countries. So that becomes very complicated. There is no, option for them, but somehow to, survive with whatever water they will have. So some of these things will become extremely complicated. The humanitarian issues will start dominating, both on the Iranian side as well as on the Gulf side. And I'm, afraid that we will see more bloodshed in the coming days, and a lot of civilians will be killed in the process because the targets, could be military, could be something else, but ultimately the civilians will suffer. And I foresee a destruction of their economies in the coming weeks. But that seems to be inevitable now since US as well as Israel cannot stop the war at this stage. If they stop at this stage, it means the Iran would be left with lot of prowess, lot of power, a lot of I can say leverage, and they will control the Gulf of Hormuz. They will control 20% of energy in the world, and that would be even worse. So I think we have to be prepared for a bloody war in the coming weeks and perhaps months.